The fabric of space rippled like disturbed water as the HMS Archimedes emerged from its quantum tunnel. Captain Sarah Chen felt the familiar subtle vibration through the command chair as the ship's revolutionary dark matter cloaking system automatically engaged. Through the bridge's panoramic viewing array, the edge of the Andromeda galaxy stretched before them, a glittering canvas of stars and stellar phenomena that no human had ever witnessed in person until this moment. Transition complete, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the navigation station, his voice steady despite the historical significance of their arrival. All systems nominal. Dark matter cloak is maintaining full coverage. Sarah nodded, her dark eyes scanning the tactical displays floating in the air around her chair. The Archimedes represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, a deep space vessel designed not for war, but for the absolute control of space itself. Its sleek, obsidian hull absorbed all forms of electromagnetic radiation, while its internal systems could manipulate gravity, quantum fields, and even the local curvature of spacetime. Multiple contacts detected, Commander Jackson announced from the sensor station. His weathered fingers danced across the holographic interface as he refined the readings. 17 vessels, arranged in attack formation around Haven Colony. Energy signatures matched the theoretical profiles of Concordat warships. Sarah leaned forward, studying the crystalline vessels that hung in space like faceted predators surrounding their prey. Each alien ship was easily twice the size of the Archimedes, their angular forms gleaming with internal energy that pulsed through transparent sections of their hull. They had positioned themselves in a perfect sphere around Haven Colony, humanity's first extrasolar mining settlement, carved into a mineral-rich asteroid that had been their reason for venturing this far into space. Their weapons? Sarah asked, though she already suspected the answer. Charging what appear to be graviton-based intimidation arrays, Jackson confirmed. Standard Concordat tactics according to our long-range observations. They're preparing to force the colony's submission through a display of overwhelming force. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Concordat had no idea they were about to encounter something far beyond their experience. The Archimedes might lack traditional weapons, but its revolutionary technology made conventional armaments seem primitive by comparison. Through the view screen, she watched as the nearest Concordat vessel adjusted its position. Its crystalline hull caught the light of nearby stars, creating rainbow refractions that danced across the void. Beautiful, but designed to inspire awe and fear in less advanced civilizations. They haven't detected us, Rodriguez confirmed, monitoring the dark matter cloak's effectiveness. The quantum barrier is maintaining full coherence, where nothing but background radiation to their sensors. Sarah stood from her command chair, her movements deliberate as she approached the tactical display. Haven Colony was clearly visible in the hologram. A sprawling complex of habitat domes and mining facilities stretched across the asteroid's cratered surface. Nearly 10,000 colonists lived there, all of them unaware they were about to become part of humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. Begin power-up sequence for the quantum field generators, she ordered. Prepare to deploy probe network on my mark, and get me a direct channel to Haven Colony's administration. Tight beam transmission, encrypted using the new quantum protocols. Her crew moved with practiced efficiency, each of them understanding the gravity of what they were about to attempt. The Archimedes had been designed for this moment, to demonstrate that humanity's approach to space exploration and control was fundamentally different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Captain, Jackson spoke up, his voice tense. The Concordat fleet is beginning their intimidation display. Graviton waves detected, increasing in intensity. Through the view screen, Sarah watched as ripples of distorted space began emanating from the alien vessels, visible as shimmering waves that distorted the starfield behind them. The display was meant to demonstrate their ability to tear a non-compliant colony apart at the molecular level, a threat that had forced dozens of independent settlements to submit to Concordat rule. Perfect timing, Sarah said, settling back into her command chair. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Everything humanity had learned about physics, quantum mechanics, and the fundamental forces of the universe had been poured into the Archimedes design. In the next few minutes, they would either prove that humanity's unique approach to technology could stand against the galaxy's dominant power, or they would fail spectacularly. "All systems ready, Captain," Rodriguez reported. "Awaiting your order." Sarah's fingers hovered over the holographic controls. "Let's introduce ourselves to the galaxy," she said. "Begin Phase 1. The HMS Archimedes shed its cloak like a chrysalis, emerging into visible space through a cascade of quantum effects that made it appear as if reality itself was unfolding. The ship's obsidian hull caught starlight in impossible ways, its metamaterial surface adapting to local space-time conditions in real time. To the watching Concordat fleet, it must have seemed as if a piece of space had decided to wake up and reveal itself as something else entirely. "Quantum field stable," Rodriguez reported, his hands steady on the controls. "Metamaterial hull is responding perfectly to the local conditions. We're visible to all conventional detection methods." Sarah watched as the nearest Concordat vessels immediately broke off their intimidation display, their crystalline forms turning to face this unexpected arrival. The abrupt cessation of their graviton waves sent ripples through space that the Archimedes sensors translated into a shifting rainbow of quantum probabilities. "They're scanning us," Commander Jackson announced, monitoring the incoming data streams. "Multiple frequencies, full spectrum analysis." He paused, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. "They're getting exactly what we want them to see." The Archimedes revolutionary hull wasn't just for show. Its adaptive metamaterial surface could control exactly what any scanning system would detect, presenting whatever image they chose to project. Right now, it was showing the Concordat exactly what they expected to see: a ship with no apparent weapons, minimal power signatures, and technology that seemed barely worth their notice. "Incoming transmission," Lieutenant Park announced from communications. "Multiple frequencies, using standard Concordat protocols." "They're being rather insistent." "Put it through," Sarah ordered, straightening in her command chair. "Let's meet our neighbors." The main view screen shifted, displaying a being that looked almost like a crystalline mantis. Its translucent carapace caught the light from internal bioluminescence, creating patterns that Sarah's xenolinguistics training identified as emotional indicators. Right now, those patterns suggested a mixture of annoyance and dismissive superiority. "Unknown vessel," the Concordat commander's words came through the universal translator, its artificial voice failing to capture the complex harmonics of the original crystalline language. "You have entered a restricted space during a sanctioned compliance action. Identify yourself and prepare for inspection." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel HMS Archimedes. We're here to discuss the status of Haven Colony." She paused deliberately. "And to suggest an alternative to your current course of action." The crystalline being's internal lights flickered in what her training suggested was amusement. "Earth vessel, we have no record of your species or your claimed jurisdiction. This sector falls under Concordat protection. The settlement you refer to will be brought into compliance with galactic law." "About that," Sarah replied, nodding to Rodriguez. "We've taken the liberty of reviewing those laws in detail. Perhaps we could share our findings." The Archimedes hull began to shift, its surface rippling as the metamaterial structure reconfigured itself. Quantum field generators spooled up, their power carefully contained and directed. To the Concordat sensors, it would appear as nothing more significant than a minor power fluctuation. "Your vessel shows no defensive capabilities," the Concordat commander stated, internal lights pulsing with confidence. "If you interfere with this compliance action, we will be forced to demonstrate the consequences." Sarah watched as the alien fleet began to move, their crystalline ships arranging themselves into a new formation that would allow them to target the Archimedes while maintaining their hold over Haven Colony. It was exactly the response she had anticipated. "Actually," she said, "I believe it's time for our demonstration." She touched a control on her chair's holographic interface. Rodriguez, initiate full spectrum reveal. Let's show them what human engineering can really do. The Archimedes hull transformed. The metamaterial surface began actively processing and redirecting every scan the Concordat ships were attempting, turning their own sensor beams into a spectacular display of light and energy that rippled across the ship's surface. Each crystalline vessel's scans were reflected back with subtle modifications, creating a complex interference pattern that painted the void with shifting colors. Multiple target locks detected, Jackson reported calmly. They're preparing to fire warning shots. Perfect, Sarah said, watching as the nearest Concordat vessel's weapon ports began to glow. Initiate Phase 2. Let's show them exactly what happens when they try to intimidate a human ship. The Archimedes quantum field generators reached full power, ready to turn the coming demonstration of force into something the Concordat fleet would never forget. As the first energy beam lanced out from the alien vessel, Sarah allowed herself another smile. The real first contact was about to begin. The warning shot from the Concordat vessel never reached its target. As the energy beam approached the Archimedes, the ship's quantum field generators created a microscopic singularity that caught the blast and twisted it into a spectacular helix of light that spiraled harmlessly into space. The display lasted mere seconds, but its message was clear. Humanity's understanding of physics operated on an entirely different level. Energy absorption successful, Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Quantum field network is ready for deployment. Sarah nodded, watching as the Concordat fleet's formation tightened in response to their failed show of force. Their crystalline ships moved with practiced precision, creating overlapping fields of fire that would have spelled doom for any conventional vessel. But the Archimedes was anything but conventional. Begin probe deployment, she ordered. Full probability matrix. The ship's quantum field generators pulsed, and thousands of microscopic probes materialized at carefully calculated points throughout the battlefield. Each probe rode its own wave of quantum probability, existing in multiple states simultaneously until observation collapsed them into reality. To the Concordat sensors, they would appear as nothing more than random quantum fluctuations, at least until it was too late. Probes deployed. Commander Jackson confirmed. Beginning strategic analysis. Through the main viewport, Sarah watched as the crystalline ships adjusted their positions, trying to herd the Archimedes into what they thought was a tactical disadvantage. Their formation was textbook perfect, designed to deal with any conventional space combat scenario. But humanity had long since moved beyond conventional warfare. Message from Haven Colony, Lieutenant Park announced. Their sensors are detecting the quantum grid we're establishing. They're impressed. Sarah allowed herself a brief smile. The colonists, many of them former scientists and engineers, would be the first humans besides her crew to witness the full capabilities of the Archimedes. Send them our authentication codes. Let them know we're about to change the rules of this encounter. The quantum probe network began its work, each microscopic sensor gathering data on everything from ship movements to internal power distributions. The Concordat fleet's tactical secrets were being laid bare, their every strength and weakness mapped in real time. Captain, the Concordat commander's voice crackled through the comm system, their crystalline harmonics suggesting growing concern. Your vessel is generating unusual quantum signatures. Cease these activities immediately, or we will be forced to take corrective action. Interesting choice of words, Sarah replied, watching as her tactical display filled with data from the probe network. Corrective action. Like the kind you took in the Carina sector, or perhaps more like your peaceful intervention in the Pleiades cluster. The commander's bioluminescence flickered in what Sarah recognized as surprise. Those operations were supposed to be classified, known only to high-ranking Concordat officials. But the quantum probe network had already found the truth hidden in their ship's secure databases. Your accusations are unfounded, the commander responded, but their harmonic patterns betrayed uncertainty. This is your final warning. Power down your unusual systems and prepare to be boarded. Sarah touched a control on her chair, and the tactical display expanded to show the complete strategic picture. The Concordat fleet's formation, meant to be intimidating, had actually placed them in perfect position for the Archimedes' next move. "Deploy secondary quantum matrix," she ordered. "Let's show them what happens when they threaten a human vessel." The probe network activated its secondary functions, each microscopic sensor becoming a node in a vast web of quantum entanglement. Space itself seemed to shiver as thousands of invisible connections formed between the probes, creating a complex matrix of quantum-locked points that surrounded the Concordat fleet. "Matrix established," Rodriguez reported. "Ready for full-spectrum manipulation." Sarah stood from her command chair, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's first true demonstration of power to an alien civilization. "Commander," she addressed the Concordat leader, "you seem to operate under the assumption that superior numbers equate to superior force. Allow us to demonstrate why that assumption is outdated." With a gesture, she initiated the next phase of their plan. The quantum matrix hummed to life, and the space around the Concordat fleet began to change in ways their sensors would never have believed possible. The true capabilities of human technology were about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The quantum matrix ignited like a constellation of invisible stars, each probe creating its own localized distortion in space-time. Sarah watched as the tactical display tracked the changes, showing how the very fabric of reality around the Concordat fleet was being reshaped by human technology. Their crystalline ships, moments ago arranged in a perfect attack formation, now found themselves in a space that no longer behaved according to their understanding of physics. "Gravitational field generators at full power," Rodriguez reported, his hand steady despite the complexity of the calculations he was managing. "Local space-time curvature is responding exactly as predicted." The first signs of the Archimedes control became visible to the naked eye. Starlight bent around the battlefield in impossible ways, creating shimmering curtains of light that rippled through space. The Concordat vessel's engines flared as they attempted to maintain their positions, but in this newly engineered space, their traditional propulsion systems might as well have been sailing ships trying to navigate a quantum storm. "Their formation is breaking down," Commander Jackson announced, monitoring the chaos through the probe network. "Their navigational systems can't compensate for the localized changes in gravitational constants." Sarah nodded, watching as the nearest Concordat ship's crystalline hull reflected the distorted starlight, creating a prismatic display that would have been beautiful if it wasn't a sign of their increasing desperation. "Open a channel to their commander." The alien leader's image appeared on the main screen, their internal bioluminescence pulsing with patterns that suggested a mixture of anger and growing fear. "What are you doing to our ships?" The translator couldn't quite capture the harmonic overtones of panic in their crystalline language. "Demonstrating why humanity's approach to space travel is fundamentally different," Sarah replied calmly. "Your civilization mastered gravity manipulation for weapons. We learned to control it as an art form." As if to emphasize her point, the Archimedes quantum field generators pulsed again. The space around each Concordat vessel developed its own unique gravitational signature, creating a complex dance of forces that pushed and pulled at their hulls with precise, calculated pressure. Not enough to damage the ships, but more than sufficient to demonstrate complete control over their movement. "Impossible," the Concordat commander declared, though their lighting patterns suggested they were starting to realize just how outmatched they were. "No species has achieved this level of fundamental force manipulation. Until now." Sarah corrected them. She gestured to Rodriguez, initiating the next phase of their demonstration. "Your understanding of physics is impressive, but limited. You see space as a battlefield to be conquered. We see it as an environment to be conducted, like a symphony." The Archimedes began generating new quantum fields, each one precisely calibrated to interact with the existing matrix. Space itself seemed to sing as gravitational waves harmonized with quantum fluctuations, creating patterns of force and energy that turned the battlefield into a cosmic orchestra with humanity as its conductor. "Multiple power spikes detected," Jackson reported. "They're trying to charge their weapon systems." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Let them try." The nearest Concordat vessel's weapon ports began to glow, attempting to gather energy for a more substantial attack. But in this redesigned space, energy refused to flow according to their expectations. The gathered power dispersed harmlessly, transformed by the quantum matrix into another spectacular display of light and color. "Their weapons are useless," Rodriguez confirmed. "The local space-time curvature is preventing any coherent energy buildup. They couldn't fire if they wanted to." Through the main viewport, Sarah watched as the Concordat fleet struggled against their new reality. Their ships, each one a marvel of crystalline engineering, were now little more than elaborate sculptures caught in humanity's gravitational web. Every attempt to break free only demonstrated how completely the Archimedes controlled their environment. "Send them the preliminary analysis of their fleet's capabilities," she ordered. "Let them understand exactly how much we've learned about their technology in these few minutes." As the data streamed to the Concordat vessels, their commanders' bioluminescence dimmed noticeably. The information wasn't just a technical readout. It was proof that humanity had comprehensively analyzed and countered their most advanced technology in the span of a single encounter. "And Commander," Sarah added, her voice carrying the weight of Earth's first major diplomatic statement to an alien civilization, "we're just getting started." The quantum probe network had gathered far more than just technical data about the Concordat fleet. Sarah studied the detailed analysis streaming across her tactical display, each new revelation painting a clearer picture of the civilization they faced. The crystalline ship's memory cores had proved surprisingly accessible to the Archimedes quantum scanning technology, revealing the truth behind decades of Concordat peacekeeping operations. "Begin transmission to all Concordat vessels," she ordered, her voice steady. "Include Haven Colony in the broadcast. They deserve to know who they're dealing with." The main screen filled with a cascade of data, records of forced colonization, suppressed technological developments, and systematic exploitation of independent settlements. Each document was accompanied by quantum signature verification, proving its authenticity beyond any doubt. The Concordat's own secure archives were being used to expose their true nature. "Their command channels are erupting," Commander Jackson reported, monitoring the fleet's internal communications through the probe network. "Several captains are demanding explanations from their leadership." Sarah watched as the Concordat fleet's perfect formation began to show signs of internal strain. Individual ships adjusted their positions slightly, their movements suggesting growing uncertainty. The crystalline commander's image appeared on the main screen, their bioluminescence patterns chaotic with mixed emotions. "This is an invasion of our sovereign data." The commander's translated voice carried unmistakable panic. "You have no right." "We have every right," Sarah interrupted, her calm tone a sharp contrast to the commander's agitation. "Just as you claimed the right to judge Haven Colony's independence, we claim the right to judge your authority." She gestured, and new data began streaming to the Concordat ships, including your recent attempts to suppress quantum field research in the Carina sector. That revelation hit home. Several Concordat vessels noticeably shifted position, their captains clearly recognizing the significance of this particular secret. The commander's bioluminescence dimmed to almost nothing, a sign of extreme distress in their species. "The Haven Colony Mining Consortium stands with Earth." A new voice joined the broadcast. The colony's administrator, Dr. Elena Martinez, appeared on a secondary screen. "We've been documenting Concordat intimidation tactics for months. Allow me to share our records as well." Fresh data began flowing through the quantum matrix, Haven Colony's detailed accounts of Concordat threats and demands merging seamlessly with the evidence the Archimedes had gathered. The combined revelation painted a damning picture of systematic oppression masked as peacekeeping. "Multiple command ships are powering down their weapon systems," Rodriguez reported, monitoring the tactical display. 3 vessels at the edge of the formation are requesting individual communication channels. Sarah nodded. The Concordat's unified front was cracking. just as their strategic analysis had predicted. Grant the requests, but maintain the quantum field matrix. Let's hear what they have to say. The next few minutes brought a cascade of revelations. Junior captains, armed with irrefutable evidence of their leadership's deception, began breaking ranks. Some expressed outrage at learning the truth about past operations. Others, seeing the futility of their position, simply declared their neutrality in the confrontation. Your civilization's greatest weakness, Sarah addressed the Concordat commander, isn't your technology. It's your assumption that you could keep the truth hidden forever. She stood from her command chair, approaching the tactical display. Humanity learned long ago that information, like energy, cannot be contained indefinitely. It seeks freedom. The commander's crystalline form seemed to shrink in the view screen. What are your demands? Their translator struggled to capture the complex harmonics of resignation in their voice. No demands, Sarah replied. Only an invitation. Haven Colony will remain independent under Earth's protection. But we're willing to discuss a new relationship between our civilizations, one based on honest exchange rather than intimidation. Through the main viewport, Sarah could see the Concordat fleet's formation continuing to dissolve. Ships were actively repositioning themselves away from their command vessels, their crews forced to choose between loyalty to their leaders and the undeniable truth before them. Your next action, she continued, addressing not just the commander but all watching vessels, will determine whether humanity becomes your greatest ally or your most dangerous opponent. Choose carefully. The Concordat commander's response never came. Instead, 3 of their lead vessels suddenly engaged emergency thrust, their crystalline hulls blazing with power as they attempted to break free of the quantum matrix. Sarah had been expecting this. There was always someone who refused to accept the changing tide. Spatial architecture protocols are ready, Rodriguez announced, his fingers already moving across the holographic controls. Awaiting your command. Sarah watched the fleeing ships for a moment, noting how their desperate maneuver had disrupted the remainder of the fleet's formation. Initiate full spectrum containment. Show them what real control over space looks like. The Archimedes quantum field generators pulsed with new energy, and the very fabric of space around the battlefield began to transform. The Probe network, already maintaining thousands of quantum-locked points, created new connections between those points. Space itself seemed to fold and ripple, forming invisible but impenetrable barriers through which no conventional drive system could penetrate. Spatial architecture deploying. Commander Jackson reported, monitoring the rapidly changing tactical situation. Creating localized pocket universe in 3, 2, 1. The stars around them appeared to shift as the Archimedes demonstrated humanity's greatest achievement, the ability to create and manipulate self-contained regions of spacetime. The fleeing Concordat ships found themselves trapped not by physical barriers or energy fields, but by carefully engineered sections of reality that responded only to human control protocols. By the first light, the Concordat commander's translated voice carried pure awe. You've achieved pocket universe manipulation. That's supposed to be theoretically impossible. Impossible is just another theory waiting to be proven wrong, Sarah replied, watching as the runaway ships tried to navigate the transformed space around them. Their advanced engines, capable of crossing galaxies, were useless against humanity's fundamental restructuring of local physics. The Archimedes began the next phase of spatial manipulation. The quantum matrix expanded, creating layers of intersecting fields that turned the battlefield into a complex, multi-dimensional maze. Each Concordat vessel now sat in its own bubble of carefully controlled spacetime, connected to the others, but completely isolated from normal space. Their engines are redlining, Rodriguez warned, tracking the fleeing ship's power outputs. They're trying to force their way through. Let them try, Sarah said calmly. They're about to learn an important lesson about human engineering. The lead vessel's engines flared to maximum power, pushing against the spatial barriers with enough force to tear a conventional ship apart. But instead of breaking through, their energy was caught in the quantum matrix's web. The Archimedes systems smoothly redirected that power, feeding it back into the spatial architecture to strengthen the very barriers the Concordat ships were trying to breach. Their own power is reinforcing the containment field, Jackson noted with professional appreciation. The harder they push, the stronger our control becomes. Through the main viewport, Sarah watched as reality itself seemed to ripple and flow around the trapped vessels. The quantum matrix was now so complex that it was affecting the way light itself traveled through the battlefield, creating mesmerizing patterns that demonstrated humanity's complete mastery over fundamental forces. "Send them the technical analysis of what's happening," she ordered. "Let them understand exactly why they can't break free." The data streamed to all Concordat vessels, detailed explanations of how the Archimedes was manipulating space-time itself, creating conditions that their engines and weapons simply couldn't overcome. It wasn't just a demonstration of power, it was a lesson in why humanity's approach to physics had surpassed their understanding. "Multiple ships are powering down," Rodriguez reported, "including 2 of the 3 that tried to run. The last one is still trying something." Sarah nodded, watching as the final rebel vessel's engines pushed to dangerous levels. "Send a targeted transmission to their engineering section. Show them what's about to happen to their drive core if they don't shut it down." The effect was immediate. The ship's engines died mid-burst, their crystalline hull dimming as emergency systems engage. In the silence that followed, the true scope of humanity's achievement hung in the star-filled void, a perfectly engineered prison of space-time itself, created and maintained by a single Earth vessel. "Now then," Sarah addressed the entire fleet, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of absolute control. "Shall we discuss the future of galactic civilization? I believe we've established that humanity has some unique perspectives to offer." Silence filled the command deck of the Archimedes as the Concordat fleet hung suspended in humanity's quantum web. Through the main viewport, the crystalline ships gleamed like caught stars in the engineered void, their once threatening forms now serving as testament to how completely human technology had surpassed their expectations. "Engineering reports from the Concordat vessels," Commander Jackson announced, studying the data streaming through the probe network. "Their chief engineers are, well, they're basically having an existential crisis. The data we sent them about our spatial manipulation technology has them questioning their entire understanding of physics." Sarah nodded, watching as the tactical display showed the complex web of quantum fields and spatial distortions the Archimedes maintained with seemingly effortless precision. Each layer represented a breakthrough that had once seemed impossible, until human ingenuity proved otherwise. "Their weapons research division is particularly interested in our gravitational control systems," Rodriguez added, his hands dancing across the holographic controls as he managed the thousands of simultaneous quantum fields. "They've never seen anything like our approach to fundamental force manipulation." "Send them the basic theoretical framework," Sarah ordered. "Nothing classified, but enough to show them why their traditional approach to space combat is obsolete." The data transfer sparked immediate reaction across the Concordat fleet. Ship after ship lit up with internal communications as their scientific teams grappled with revelations that challenged centuries of established theory. The quantum probe network captured every debate, every exclamation of disbelief, every moment of dawning understanding. "Captain," the Concordat commander's image appeared on the main screen, their crystalline forms bioluminescence patterns, showing a complex mix of emotions the translator couldn't quite capture. "Our scientists, they're saying your vessel isn't just more advanced than our technology. They're saying you've achieved what our theories claimed was impossible." Sarah stood from her command chair, approaching the tactical display. "The impossible is simply the undiscovered, Commander. Humanity learned that lesson centuries ago, when we first looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them." The display showed the current status of each Concordat vessel, 17 ships of war, among the most powerful in the galaxy, now helplessly suspended in human-engineered space. Their sensors were overwhelmed trying to track the quantum fields surrounding them. Their weapons rendered useless by spatial distortions they barely understood, their very movement controlled by forces they had never mastered. "You could destroy us all," the commander stated, their voice carrying the weight of revelation. "Your control over space-time itself. You could collapse these pocket universes, tear our ships apart at the quantum level, erase us from existence." "We could," Sarah agreed, watching as the tactical display updated with new data from the probe network. "But that's the fundamental difference between our civilizations, Commander. You see space as something to be conquered through force. We see it as something to be understood and shaped. Destruction is easy. Creation, true mastery, that's the real challenge." To demonstrate her point, she nodded to Rodriguez. The Archimedes quantum field generators pulsed, and the space around the Concordat fleet subtly shifted. The spatial architecture that had trapped them transformed, becoming a demonstration of pure scientific artistry. Stars seemed to dance as light bent through carefully crafted distortions, creating patterns that were both beautiful and mathematically perfect. "Your entire fleet," Sarah continued, 17 of the most powerful ships in the galaxy, has been completely neutralized by a single human vessel. Not through superior firepower or overwhelming force, but through deeper understanding of the universe itself. The commander's bioluminescence dimmed in what their cultural database suggested was profound humility. How did your species achieve this level of mastery?" "By never accepting limitations," Sarah replied. "By questioning every theory, challenging every assumption, and always seeking new ways to understand the fundamental forces of reality." She gestured at the display, showing the Archimedes systems. "This ship represents humanity's refusal to accept the impossible. Every system, every innovation, exists because someone dared to ask why not." The quantum probe network registered a wave of communications flooding through the Concordat fleet as this truth settled in. Ship after ship acknowledged what had become undeniable. They weren't just facing superior technology, they were witnessing the dawn of a new era in galactic civilization. The stars returned to their normal positions as the Archimedes gradually dissolved its quantum matrix. One by one, the spatial distortions faded, releasing the Concordat ships from their engineered confinement. Yet none of the crystalline vessels attempted to flee or reposition for attack. They remained in place, their crews still processing the profound implications of what they had witnessed. "Quantum field network disengaging," Rodriguez reported, his fingers moving with practiced precision across the holographic controls, maintaining minimal coverage for defensive purposes only. Sarah watched as the tactical display simplified, the complex web of spatial manipulation reducing to a basic defensive screen around the Archimedes. It was a calculated risk, but one that would demonstrate humanity's commitment to peaceful resolution. "Commander," she addressed the Concordat leader, whose crystalline form still showed signs of astonishment through its bioluminescent patterns. "I believe we've established the futility of military action. Now I'd like to discuss something more important, the future." The commander's internal lights shifted to patterns indicating careful consideration. "You have demonstrated power beyond anything in our records, yet you speak of peace. Many species would use such advantage to demand submission." "Submission breeds resentment," Sarah replied, approaching the main viewport. "Innovation breeds progress. We're not interested in ruling the galaxy, Commander. We're interested in exploring it, understanding it, and helping it grow." She gestured to the tactical display, which now showed a comprehensive analysis of Concordat technology. "Your civilization has achieved remarkable things. Imagine what you could accomplish if you focused on discovery rather than dominance." The quantum probe network registered a surge of communication between Concordat vessels as her words resonated through their fleet. The data they had received about human technology had already sparked intense scientific discussions among their research teams. "Haven Colony will remain independent," Sarah continued, "but not isolated. We propose establishing it as a center for technological and cultural exchange, a place where human and Concordat scientists can work together, sharing knowledge and pushing the boundaries of what's possible." Dr. Martinez's image appeared on a secondary screen, the Haven Colony Administrator's expression bright with possibility. "We would be honored to host such collaboration. Our facilities can be expanded to accommodate joint research teams." The commander's bioluminescence shifted through several complex patterns before settling on one that their database identified as signifying acceptance. "The Concordat High Council will need to be consulted, but I believe they will see the wisdom in your proposal. Your demonstration has made it clear that the galaxy is larger than we understood." "Much larger," Sarah agreed, "and full of possibilities we've only begun to explore." She nodded to Rodriguez, who initiated a new data transfer to the Concordat fleet. "These are preliminary schematics for a collaborative research facility. Note that we've incorporated elements of both human and Concordat design philosophy. Consider it a first step toward true cooperation." The tactical display showed the Concordat ship's power signatures shifting as their crews eagerly examined the shared plans. The quantum probe network picked up waves of excitement, particularly from their scientific personnel. "There will be those in the Concordat who resist this change," the commander warned, though their harmonics suggested personal enthusiasm for the idea. "Our ways are deeply entrenched." "Change is always challenging," Sarah acknowledged. "But consider this. In the span of a single encounter, humanity has demonstrated technologies that your best theories claimed were impossible. Imagine what we might achieve together, combining your crystalline engineering with our quantum manipulation techniques. The possibilities are endless." The commander's form seemed to straighten with new purpose. "The Concordat fleet will escort your vessel to our capital world. The High Council must see firsthand what humanity has achieved. And what you offer." Sarah smiled, noting how the Concordat ships were already repositioning themselves into an honor guard formation around the Archimedes. "Commander, I believe this is the beginning of a profound partnership. Together, we can push the boundaries of science and exploration further than either of our species dreamed possible." As the fleet prepared for departure, Sarah took a final look at Haven Colony through the viewport. The mining settlement that had almost become a battlefield would now serve as humanity's first foothold in a larger galactic community. Not through force of arms, but through the undeniable power of human innovation and wisdom. "Plot a course to the Concordat capital," she ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really offer." The Archimedes quantum field generators hummed softly as the ship prepared to make history once again, not as a weapon of war, but as a bridge between civilizations, carrying humanity's greatest gifts: curiosity, creativity, and the endless drive to turn the impossible into reality.